What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Sit Down Talk. My name is Kier,
And I'm Noemie.
and we thank you for being here with us on this beautiful day. Clap it up for yourself for being here. Look at you looking like you look. If for whatever strange stroke of luck you are new here and this is your first time seeing our chocolate faces, we welcome you and we thank you for being here, and we're sure that you're going to come back because this Sit Down Talk is fire. If for whatever reason you've been here a lot of times before, the group of people I like to refer to as repeat offenders, we thank you too, because without you all, this whole thing doesn't happen. So thank you for being here again. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for subscribing. You did subscribe, didn't you? You wait, time out. No, stop. You are a subscriber, aren't you? Oh nah, y'all. Let's give them a second to get it together. I'm gonna give you about 5 seconds to go and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead. We'll wait for you. You did it? Go ahead then. There you go. I'm gonna just keep it a buck with y'all. We didn't know what we were gonna talk about today until like five until like 5 minutes
It's a common
ago.
occurrence. We got a lot of stuff going on, man.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it's going to be an authentic conversation.
I like it though because it gives us an opportunity to just say exactly what's fresh on our mind. You know, you don't really have a chance to think about what you're gonna say or craft the perfect argument, and you really just capture like the emotion or whatever you're going through in the moment.
Right.
So with it, what we talking about today?
So let me just preface it by saying, if you don't follow my podcast, Happy Mother's Day. Go on my page, you'll find all the information. But today we kind of had a breakthrough and we were talking about friendships and the importance of a tribe in your marriage and just in your like growth as a person. And we didn't go deep into it. And if you listen to that podcast whenever it comes out, I'll say, you know what, I don't want to talk about this yet because I think it'll be a great sit down talk. So while I was when I came home, I was looking at Kier's Instagram and he posted a video of him like hugging and embracing his line brother and best friend after he just had a baby.
Congrats, LB. Yeah, welcome, dog. Welcome. I called both of y'all, man. Neither one of y'all answered y'all phone.
And, I've seen it before, but I never went back and read the comments. And a lot of people were just saying, like, wow, you never see like black men embrace each other like this. And, talking about the importance of a tribe for men. Because I think a lot of times when you hear tribe, you think of girls and their girlfriends and stuff like that. And for me, it's normal. Like his friends are here, all the time. Like I know them. A lot of them are fathers. So what he did for his friend wasn't something that was new to me. It was my normal. But looking at the comments, it made me kind of step away from it and look at it from a more like at a glance view. And I'm like, wow, like that isn't something that, we see at least on the media, on social media, outside of like our ordinary lives. And these are things that are happening among black men. It's
and
that's not
happening
new.
and happening consistently, and I find myself at odds because there's a part of me that understands that a lot of people don't get to see that this happens, but there's another side of me who is a black man who is very aware of how hypercritical every single group of people that walk this earth is of black men, and how comfortable they are being hypercritical in front of the world, and how they use their most negative experiences with black men to kind of shape what they think black men are in a whole, and that's including black women. That happens a lot, and it's really frustrating to see. So it's difficult for me because I see this all the time, and it goes back to the thing it goes back to the idea of, well, does this thing not exist because you don't witness it? Because it's a little undermining to be a part of several villages of men who are loving and caring, and people are like, we don't see this enough. It doesn't exist. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't exist where you are, but it does exist, and it's frustrating to always be scrutinized under that principle. But I do love that people see and love the love, though.
We have this conversation often, like with black men, and I hope this doesn't come across as bad. I don't really know what this is about to come
Nah,
across
this is
as.
safe space,
Yeah,
man.
but it's like, just because you personally don't see it, why is it an assumption that it doesn't happen? Like, why is the assumption when it comes to, black men and love and the embrace and the tribe, like, why is it that because you don't see it, it doesn't exist? There are a lot of things that we don't necessarily see, but we have, a positive, at least an initially positive opinion of it.
It starts from a
Right.
positive, and then you give it a
Right.
chance to go
And
down.
I don't want to come across as ignorant, because I definitely know that I am privileged in seeing this in my husband, seeing those relationships that you have with your boys. I've seen it with my father. I've seen it with my uncles. I also see the other side of things, but like, it makes me uncomfortable to speak out against it when that's not the way that I see it. I don't know that I genuinely, and that's why I say I don't want to come across as ignorant, but like, in my group, my girls and their husbands got their boys. So like, I don't see that as true. I don't see that black men are not supported by their boys as true. I don't see that black men don't embrace each other as true, because that's not my truth. That's not my experience. But it does bother me when, I'm seeing something on Instagram that I see all the time. I see you hug your boys like that all the time. And for people to be like, wow, I never knew that black men. I'm just a little offended by that comment, because it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
I'm a lot of offended by that comment, but I always preach. I don't preach nothing. I always say on Instagram.
You be preaching though.
Nah, man, don't say that. But I'm always on Instagram. I'm always saying, like, you can hold two truths that have competing perspectives at the same time, and that's what I have to do with the way that the world looks at black men. On one side, it's like, yeah, perhaps they don't actually see that. Maybe that isn't a part of their communities and a part of their daily lives. And I can see how, if, there's this magical phenomenon that you've never laid eyes on, and everyone keeps saying it exists, but you've never seen it. I can see how you can have like an aha moment as soon as you lay your eyes on it. But on the same token, black people should understand this very principle with like police brutality. It, like, people, oh my God, it's getting so much worse. Like, no.
It's been bad.
It's been bad forever. It's just we can capture these things. So, and then on the other side of that is the frustration. Like, how dare you?
Can I push back on that? It's like, and I agree with you. Yeah, you can have there's a difference between an aha moment and that actually doesn't happen. Those are two totally different perspectives. And I'm okay with the aha moment. You know what I mean? Like, of course, you're opening up to a reality that you didn't know existed. But to approach the situation as if it never happened,
be completely dismissive of
you're
it.
not a black man.
Yeah.
To say that black men don't do this, and you are not a black man, or at least a black person.
But there's an entire culture that's built around frustration of black men. There's an entire culture that's built around minimizing of black men. And the argument against it is, well, black men minimize everyone else. So black men minimize black women, and black men minimize the LGBTQ community. And these arguments are valid on both sides. But what happens is both sides take a defensive stance, and it becomes me against you. And it becomes my lived experience versus yours. And it becomes yours can't exist, mine can't exist unless yours does not.
Yeah, like those two things can't exist in the same place.
It can't. And then if you cut on Twitter, just cut on Twitter and just look up straight black men and just look at the visceral just disgust that exists for us. And even me having this platform, I say it all the time, I'm so honored to have the world listen to my voice as a black man, because I know there's this presumed power that black men exude, but people don't listen to our voices or listen to our complaints or take our pain seriously.
Right.
A lot of times people don't care about our mental well-being unless we're doing something harmful that is taken away from a greater good, like a family or a loving relationship. There's no just like, hey, bro, I want you to be good for you. You do that. Yeah. You're one of the first women I've ever dated who took that level of interest in me.
Seriously?
Yeah, not as like you're not just the strong black man I can have on my arm and be the affirmation of my feminine journey. Like, nah, you're not the husband that I prayed for God for. Like, it's not that thing. You like me as a person and you care about my well-being as a person.
So like I said, I'm gonna say this often, and I don't want to sound ignorant because I don't understand. Like, so what? How when did that start? Like, when did you realize that you as a black man, that your voice isn't heard in the same way that others are? Like, when did that aha moment happen for you?
Honest truth,
Yeah.
when I started working out and I started getting a lot of muscle, and women would start touching my body, and I would tell them like, nah, that makes me uncomfortable, and they'd be like, boy, shut up.
Wow.
Every single time. So when you think you work out and get big and the girls are going to dig you, actually you get more questions from dudes who identify as straight, who just want to look like that, and they're fascinated by the physique. But guy culture is weird, so a dude's not going to walk up and be like, hey, nice chest, how'd you get it like that? He's just going to be weird about it.
Like, bro, your workouts and stuff.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, man, what you eat? What you eat today to live? Like, bro, stop being a weirdo and just give me a compliment. It happened on the street. It happened at my job. It happened all the time, and that's when I first knew, like, y'all not even listening.
Yeah.
Like, there's an assumption that I like that sexualization.
Oh. Don't
Like,
I
shawty,
understand?
if you don't get your mitts off me, madam, stop playing with me like that.
Man, that sucks.
I mean,
That sucks.
Yeah.
And I get it. I totally get it.
But who's going to take that seriously? It's weird that I love this platform. I really do. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. But it's a little offensive to me that I'm this famous for just being a good black man.
Yeah.
I should not be this famous.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating when black women specifically walk up to me and be like, oh no, you're not one of them. You're one of the good ones. That's the same feeling I used to get when I was in a room full of people who didn't have the skin color that I had. And they thought that people who had the skin color that I had were ignorant until they heard me say the endings of my words. And they say, oh nah, you're not one of them. You're one of the good ones.
That's really frustrating.
It's the same exact feeling. And the conversation is a whole bunch of mutual hurt on both sides. You and I had the conversation about how black men and black women fight like cats and dogs probably every single day. And we don't bring it to the internet because I can't speak for Noemie. I honestly do not believe that the collective is mature enough to have this conversation. And I can't believe we're having it now. But there's a lot of pain and there's a lot that has transpired in the black community around love in the last 2 months. And you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I think this is a good insertion point to have a conversation. And I think you're a good person to have a conversation with. I don't want you to keep saying like, maybe I'm ignorant, maybe I'm not.
I am scared to have this conversation.
Baby, you an advocate though. I'm telling you, you're an advocate. When me and the homies get together and we talk, the way that you see things is closer to the way that we see things than you would imagine.
Yeah. I don't know. It's even when you were saying that, like, you're like one of the good ones, it just made me think about, like, a lot of my friends come to me, especially now that you've like really blown up and pivoted your niche to more of like a mental health kind of space. Like, people often come to me and be like, you know what, Noemie, my friend asked me, is Kier really like that in real life? And I'm like, yeah, he's totally like that. And before,
people think my personality fake. They think I'm putting on.
Yeah, people. Oh, I wouldn't say people think you're putting on, but like people can't wrap their minds around like, this is really you. And I'll be honest, in the beginning I was so proud to say like, yeah, my husband's really like that in real life. And now it's kind of pushing me to be like, well, what did you think he would be like then? You know, I'm genuinely a curious person. I ask a lot of questions because I really want to know where like the source of feelings come from. But like, I won't lie, like that's an offensive question to me. I haven't really broken down why I'm so offended by it. You know, like it don't make me feel good. I don't really know why, but it's just like I do feel like I constantly have to prove that like who you are is who you are. And I don't understand, like, I'm not going to say I don't understand why. I understand now, but it's just like,
it's,
you know, deep sigh. That's my only reaction. Like,
yeah, it's a fight that I'm used to, sadly. You know, when we'll say this, and I don't want to dwell on black men and black
Yeah, because
women forever.
that's not even what
That's
we were
not
here
what
to
we
talk
came here
about.
to talk about, and our audience is larger than just that point.
It absolutely is.
So I don't know if you have a dog in this fight, but this is still a good thing to listen to, so you can get some insight on what's going on, because we don't always let the world know. With men and women, it's just we culturalize so differently, and one thing that this marriage has taught me, like my other marriage, didn't teach me nothing. I was about to say SHIT, didn't teach me anything, right? See, mommy, I stopped cussing, and Aunt Queen, y'all told me stop cussing on the internet.
She
so
did?
there I go.
Aunt Queen said that?
Aunt Queen said I cuss too much, yeah.
Aunt Queen, you watching this? Oh, God. I love you.
She said I cuss too much. I was like, well, shit, what am I supposed to say? with men and women, we're culturalized so differently, like, even with boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when we first started dating, we clashed a lot because boundaries around like the opposite sex were completely different for us. And my boundaries versus yours, good Lord, they probably look reckless as hell.
Yeah.
Because my reality is, if I'm in a room alone with a woman who I do not know, and there's nobody else to hear my voice or see my face or come and lend me any kind of aid, I don't feel threatened. You can't say the same thing.
I can't even go to the gas station.
Yeah.
I won't. I refuse to. I refuse to. That's why I can relate when you were talking about the body, you know what I mean, issues at the gym when women touch you. It's just the same as being heckled at, or I think that's the word. Is that
Yeah, heckled. Yeah, dudes get crazy with the heckling though.
Still.
Yeah, it's been and I don't know if this is like that everywhere. Dudes in DC have they're world famous for heckling and then being ridiculously disrespectful after
New
that.
York dudes are very similar.
For real.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, ma, what's good?
I hate when he does the New York accent.
Yo, you know what I'm saying? My
like,
sister.
They don't even talk like that.
Yo, that I mean, yo, look, y'all.
Kier thinks his accents are on point. Tell him the truth. 'Cause he don't
Comment
listen to
below
me.
and tell me what my New York accent busting on. I think it's on 1,000.
This whole conversation, I think it deserves
It's on sit down talk.
It deserves its own sit down talk. But I want you guys to be a part of that conversation. Let us know, like, I don't want to say where you stand with this, but like, what do you want to hear? Because it is a painful conversation on both sides. It's a vulnerable conversation on both sides because, I think for Black women, hearing this could be difficult because I can totally see somebody saying, well, I go through the same thing, and it's like, it's not about the competition of trauma. It's about being able to, you know what, I'm going to sit here and just listen, give you the opportunity to talk, and then doing that same thing on the flip side, and then coming together. Because I don't know how that would work as a people, but I know that's how it works with us.
As individuals. And that's my point. I don't believe in societal change where we could take hundreds of millions of people and get them all on the same page. Like, nah, I don't know if that's a thing. But individually, individual conversations that we have in our communities and in our homes.
With our friends.
And with our family help shift the culture. And it's non-accusatory talk. And it's not me bringing all of my hurt from all the Black women that have frustrated me in my life into the conversation. It's me sitting in front of the person that I'm that I'm locking eyes with and having dialogue to be informed on things that I may not have been clear on before we started talking. But that's a lot to ask of people. I'm not going. Yeah, that's an idealism because if you say something deeply hurtful to me, I ain't gonna be able to be like, well, let's pontificate. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna want to slap you. So, nah, man, I'm not a slapper.
Are you? You're not a slapper, but you would. If necessary.
I've had a few.
To somebody.
I've had a few people I had to put hands on.
Don't come at my husband crazy, all right?
Yeah, I don't. Listen.
He's a very sweet man, but he don't take no shit.
Yeah, I'm working. God's still working on me, y'all. I'm just trying not to be on TMZ. Social media influencers grabbing a reporter by the collar because he asked him a crazy question. Yeah. Let's move on.
Going back to the original, thing, I really rewind back to you and Rob and just seeing you guys is
Oh my God, that was the longest rabbit hole of all time.
But it was necessary.
Man.
I let it happen because
I
needed to talk your shit.
I forgot that we were talking about my LB having a baby originally. Yeah. I appreciate just having space to talk about that because that is on my heart.
We talk about it offline often, and we've been trying to figure out ways to bring up that conversation on our platform, and I just felt like it worked. Let you talk your shit. Let's talk about it, and let's at least put a placeholder and let the people know that is something that we're thinking about.
Real quick, before we move on, since we're on this topic, I had a friend of mine, great husband, great father, one of the most intelligent dudes I know, because we always say intelligent black men don't speak up on social media because the cancel culture and the groupthink is so bad that intelligent opinions have no place sometimes on social media.
I never saw it that way, but I do now.
He said something that I want to bring to y'all, and I want to know what you think. He said that as a black man, he has to protect himself from black women's thoughts.
What does that mean?
I asked him what it meant, and his interpretation of that is that sometimes the low opinions and just like the what could be perceived as visceral disdain and frustration for black men is so bad that sometimes he has to just like not follow certain women who spew that because it leaks into his subconscious and he starts to feel less than.
I understand.
And until he said that, I didn't realize that. Like,
it's like protecting your mental health.
Yeah, the Negroes ain't shit culture is real, and when you're scrolling and all you see is that people who represent you ain't shit, y'all ain't shit, y'all ain't shit, y'all the weakest link, y'all ain't shit. That's the problem with black men. Black men do this, black men do that. Accountability. I mean, my God.
Yeah. And that's not to downplay people's experiences.
No,
if
not
you
at
don't
all.
identify with that and you're constantly seeing that in yourself, seeing that on your timeline, I can totally see how that can mess you up.
Yeah, and then there's a part of you that has to be conscientious and be smart enough to know that if a group of people are all saying the same thing, then there's some validity somewhere to what they're saying. They're not lying. They're not making it up. These are their experiences. So it's like, it's such a tough tug of war, but I'm really curious as to what you take away from that. Yeah, I'd be really curious to see what y'all think about that.
And we'll definitely dive deeper in that into the next talk. But
that ain't what this episode is about.
And I also feel really strongly about what we were originally intending to talk about.
Go ahead, bring that thing in.
Take him to the bridge. In the simplest way, it's just seeing Kier and the evolution in his friendships as like life things have happened has been the most amazing thing to see.
Really?
Absolutely. And I'm just thinking about like even like your mindset has completely changed
around friendships,
around just you as a man. You have, like, we always talk about how like marriage changes us and parenthood changes us, and there's something to be said about our friends experiencing life and us being a part of it, and like you embracing Rob in that way and just being there for him as like a fellow father and somebody that he already trusts. And
of course,
it's just beautiful to see. And like I'm kind of going through the same thing with my friend Ashley. Like, of course my friends have kids.
She's having a baby, right? That's the one that's having a baby?
And she's having a daughter, and her daughter's due in July. And
all the warm and fuzzies.
It's different because like now that I feel like I've gotten a really good like I feel like I'm a good mom. Like I feel like I know what I'm doing. Things are starting to make sense. I'm fitting into my role where
clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's clicking, and it's like now that I'm at this place where I know where I still need to grow, but I also know where I've grown and where I've like kind of not mastered motherhood, but where I'm comfortable mothering and being able to share and experience her go through that same situation with the knowledge that I have now. Like, I mean, me and Ashley are already close, but we talk often just about like, what it's like to raise a daughter, what it's like to be, she's recently married too, you know what I mean? What it's like to be recently married and going through those changes, what it's like to be a supportive wife while pregnant, while being a newlywed.
Yeah.
And like kind of being able for her to tackle on the things that I know are coming because I just went through them.
Hell yeah.
And it's like, I never really saw how friendships can grow in that way because I've never experienced it. So now I can see where, how Simona felt when I became a mom because she was in that place.
When your friends start coming aboard to all the life stages that you've already undergone.
When they join in the club, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know much about fraternities and sororities, but it's like, I'm welcome you into it.
That's exactly parenthood, marriage, all of that. It is kind of like a fraternity and sorority because there are rules of engagement that only you only know about if you're already
like
in
it.
Society. Yeah.
And it's just like, as a woman, I have my tribe, and we talk about this often. It's really a beautiful thing, and later on, I definitely want to have the conversation about what a tribe is and what it takes to build that, because it's not just something that you fall into. You know what I mean?
No, it's not just a cutesy term.
No.
Like, a tribe isn't just a group of people to spend time with. Like, this is a community where you all are, in some ways, like, interdependent on each other. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I use that word in the right context.
Codependent?
But like,
well, codependent is a bad word, right?
Not necessarily. It can have a negative connotation.
Interdependent makes more sense.
Yeah, let's use interdependent.
Y'all
If I did it wrong, y'all know what I'm talking about. But like, everyone, the group, the community in and of itself is an entity that supports everything in it, especially when it comes to child rearing and marriage, because those things require more than just the people who are in it. As any single parent, as any newly married couple who is struggling, like you need a community to help you bounce ideas off of, to give you support, to give you mentorship and guidance. That's essential, man.
Right. As an individual and as somebody in the relationship, like, I'm sure you go to your friends whenever we have tiffs just for that support. You know what I mean?
They know all the tea. What you mean?
But you need that. But it's really important to find people that you trust to be there, because everybody can't be that person. Message.
And the thing about that is, like, and I feel so terrible for some people because, like, they just don't have a good feel for people sometimes, or sometimes they bring a lot of people into their inner circle and it balloons, and then you start realizing that, once the excitement and novelty of a new friend wears off, that y'all don't have enough in common, or y'all don't have the chemistry to keep that friendship rolling.
He talking about me, man.
I'm talking about us. Well, I'm a little different.
I feel like, no, it's different. Like, you also have the same core friend group that you had when we met is still there.
Yeah.
I can't say the same. I can't say, and I think a lot of it does have to do with me being transient, me kind of moving around. Perfect segue. What Shar and I, she's the co-host of my podcast, we talked about this offline, but she was saying to me, she's like, you're so different than you're totally different, Noemie, than who you are when I met you. And me and her always kind of go back and forth, and you and I also kind of go back and forth with that too, because I feel like now in my life I'm finally who I always was. And when I moved to DC, and when I was in college, and like, not college, when I was in law school, like, that Noemie wasn't truly me. Like, the reality of the situation, I was coming out of a very long relationship that didn't end well. I was in the middle of law school, stressed, depressed, didn't know what the hell I was going to be doing. Like, that was the most unsure point of my life.
Stressed, depressed, and not knowing what to do is the official mascot of law school. And that's facts.
Yeah, and I was just talking to her just about me and just about the ways that I'm kind of figuring myself out. I'm like, I feel like me again, because I didn't feel like me when I moved here. New place, new friends, like, everything's
in
new.
transition.
And I totally see, like, I've definitely had like shifts, and some friendships have been pulled closer and some friendships have been pulled back away. And I'm finally at a place where I'm okay with it, because I feel like me again. I feel like who I was right before I moved here. I feel like this is who I am in my core. Like, I feel like the real me me again.
Are the friendships like helping form and build
Absolutely.
that?
But the friendships are helping me, are giving me clarity, and with that clarity I know which friendships are real, you know what I mean, and which ones were like, you know what, I don't think you're my person to really like help. You're not my tribe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people at this point in our lives are dealing with that. I talk to my friends all the time, and it's like friendships and marriage and children, and it's like you can't give that same time that you used to when you have a spouse and a child.
No, you
You know what I
can't. You
mean?
can't.
You can't give that same love if you're going through turmoil. You know what I mean? You can't give that same love all the time if you're going through a transitional phase. And it's like one thing that I've learned about friendships and even relationships, it's like I'm not the same girl you met. I can only hope and pray that whoever I turn into, you still love and you still want to be married
That's
to
the
her.
challenge. That's the
You
challenge
know?
of marriage, though.
Right, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing as in friendship. I'm not the same friend that I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. But I can just hope that you could learn to love the way that I'm changing. You know what I mean? And oh, okay, I'm done.
Nah, I think there's a point there. I'm just thinking about. I hate to be contrarian, but like I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about the opposite perspective, where you did develop a deep bond and a connection with a person, and then over time, their personality and their like sense of identity has changed, and it phrased the friendship, and it's through no fault of your own. But now, you don't have a close friend that you had before
I
through
got
no fault of your own.
I got a response to that. I think even you're talking about friendship, and I'm looking at the same thing in relationships. Like people grow and people move apart. Like people grow apart, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think a lot of times, sometimes we hold on to things that might be toxic because they are our things. And understanding that, like, you can have love for someone. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a bitch. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to be like a horrible person. But I think that when you feel like why is that so funny?
I don't know. It's just funny.
Because I hate this cancel culture with friends. Like, you don't serve me no more, so I'm done.
If you don't do the things I need you to do
like-
in the moment where I need you to do it, then you don't serve me and you were disposable.
But it's also like, it seems very like possessive.
It is.
And I don't like that. I genuinely don't. Like, I have friends that, like, I'm just naturally not as close to, but it doesn't mean there's any love lost.
Look, friendship, motherhood, fatherhood, marriage, a relationship is a relationship is a relationship is a relationship. It all follows the same basic like tenets and principles. And one thing about a relationship is two people have two different perspectives. So y'all don't always be in the same friendship. And there are people, it's just like a relationship.
Like that,
people project.
Yeah.
I had to tell somebody a few months ago. She probably gonna listen to this, but we've known each other for a very long time, and she began to grow expectations of me as a friend once I got married and had a kid, and we ended up talking, and it was clear to me that this person was projecting on me some things that didn't belong in my house. So that happens with friends all the time, where people are like, well, I had an expectation that you were supposed to fulfill and you didn't. So now where are we? And
Where are we?
friendships are just like
They're
romantic
just like
relationships.
They're just
it's
like
the same
relationships.
thing. It's a few different dynamics that change the game, but for the most part, same car, different engine.
Yeah.
So
That's a tough conversation to have.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. It is. And for me, I know I have a very small attachment threshold.
Yeah, he does.
So there are people like attachment threshold. Some people, all you have to do is say, hey, how was your day? And they grow an attachment to you. And they will perceive that as you beginning a friendship, or you being interested in them as a human being, or you wanting to explore this relationship, this friendship more. There's some people that have different attachment thresholds, where it's like, I need to know you for 10 years. I need to know your mama. I need to go to 3 funerals with you. And we need to cry together before I can consider us close. And the tough thing is, if you have a shallow threshold, like some people, where it doesn't take a lot, versus a deep threshold, the person with the deep threshold is going to look like a complete asshole compared to the person with the shallow. And they'll be forever judged on on that person's definition of attachment, and vice versa. So it's not that simple.
And then in addition to that, because I'm thinking about where I stand, my friendship language is very situational.
Friendship language. They talk about the love languages. The friendship language matters too.
Mine is very situational. Like right now in this season, like with COVID, my closest friends, I mean, like I have a lot of girlfriends, but like my closest people right now are the people that are in my pod. Like got the same age kids, we in the same situation, and we all trapped. And it's not to say that I don't love my other friends. It's a safety concern, and like it's been a year. That's a good amount of time to build a very strong bond, you know, with people. And then the same thing with law school. I have people that I'm really close to through law school because we were going through that same trauma, you know, together. And then you have like people like Christine. We were Haitians in an all white college, and it's like I'm noticing, you know, my friendships and those trends, and I am that situational friend where it's just like I'm not gonna like go to somebody and be like, "Hi, my name is Noemie. What's your name?" And then we're just gonna. I'm not.
Let's be buddies.
I'm not that girl. But I do form really close relationships really quickly before getting to know people for real. And you taught me that.
Yeah.
Like you taught me to be, not to say that I'm going to be more guarded, but to just give it time to show. Give the relationship time to show me what it actually is versus what I want it to be.
You know what though? My experience, I noticed that a lot more in women than with men.
Yeah.
I know a lot of guys. Well, I know.
So
I know
how do
some
guys make friends? How do you do that?
I'm different because I'm the same. I've had the same friends for the most part my entire life, but generally off a common interest. When you're younger, it's usually centered around women or having a good time or partying or things that you do in common, like clubs you belong to, fraternities, churches, rec centers. It's usually the friendship builds off of something that's simple, and then once you spill out and have another experience with that person, then you know it kind of goes from there. But I've seen women walk in the bathroom and walk out hand in hand with another girl. It's like, who is this? Like, this is my friend. Like, what?
We had a connection.
And then in turn, place way too much pressure on that person way too early and do a little bit too much, and then the friendship goes sour and y'all fall off for 2 years.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people, but it's the way, and that's nothing that anyone needs to feel guilty about.
Right,
that's
absolutely.
just the way that you come into friendships.
Yeah.
I'm very reluctant. I'm team no new friends.
I was just about to say, I'm like, who are your new friends?
Like my social media people. I'm close with them.
But like
my social media peers.
Yeah.
Like me and Belief are actually friends.
Yeah.
Me and Sean from Daddy Game are actually friends. Me and Muhammad Chronicles of Daddy, Like,
that is true. Jamie, like
like Jamie Perkins, like it's I've got cool because they're my peers and we have common interest in those things.
Can I say something? I'm very proud of you for that.
What?
Because before I was gonna ask, like, here you don't ever do like new friends. Who are your new friends? I've never seen you open up in this way with other men.
Yeah.
Like you've always been, like I said, you being, I don't think guarded is the right word. You being
conscientious.
Conscientious and just like careful. You being careful about the energy that you bring into your life.
Oh man,
it's something I've always admired about. I just be excited, y'all. Like I like friendship, like, you know what I mean? But like I know
it's the way our environment shaped us too. I was shaped to not trust people. I've seen what happens when you trust people. I look at my old neighborhood and all the dudes I grew up with. If the ones that were killed, you look at who killed them, and there were other dudes that we grew up with every single time. Every time. I have a natural skepticism when it comes to people, and I start everybody off at neutral. I nothing you until you give me a reason to like you or dislike you. Some people start off liking you, like they'll give you all the chance in the world to impress them, like and you'll give them a red flag and they'll be like, no, it's okay, I want to like you so bad that I am going to ignore that. Please just keep giving me fuel. I really want to like you.
I just feel like I'm being shaded.
Nah, I don't think you're that person.
I think I have been. I
definitely don't see you that way though.
Okay.
Not if you have been in the past,
it was
a prior Noemie. Yeah, I don't know her.
I take the way that you enter friendship, and like I said, I do admire it and I take those lessons because I think it's beneficial. But one thing that I didn't see was the whole new friend thing. But now that I'm seeing, I'm very proud of you for that, because I feel like you're opening up yourself to a group of people that you wouldn't ordinarily, communicate with had you not had these common interests. Like, one thing I always wanted for you was like, not necessarily like mentorship, or like Shar and I talk about friend tours a lot, and not that your friends aren't people that you can go to for advice, but they're not in the same career field as you. And there's a benefit in having like mentors in this career, mentors as fathers on social media, husbands on social media. Like, there are a lot of things and lessons. Like, this is a very scary place to put your family on. You know what I mean? To live our relationship, our marriage
live in front of people.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people, no, we love you guys, it's safe, but like the rule on this thing is people love you until they don't. If there's a mistake, or if there's an opinion that we have that isn't popular, or if something crazy from the past comes up,
Yep. And changes the way that you've built your brand.
yeah, then automatically you're pushed off of the pedestal that you probably didn't even purposely put yourself on. So I don't. That's, you live by the cheers, you die by the booze. Like, I try to stay neutral with that. But yeah, it is a scary place to subject the people you love to people's opinions, and everything you post here is forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have a tribe of men who have, lived this, who have made mistakes, you know what I mean, who have gone through every possible thing that you can go through.
Every scenario.
Yeah, and you have those people like pouring into you and being able to say like, yeah, dog, I did this and this went well, or I did this, so don't do it.
And you know what? Sometimes you got somebody who's been through it and they can just come to where you are and sit with you in silence.
Yeah.
And I love it when people don't feel the need to fill space with words. Especially,
that's very difficult.
Yeah, it is. It is. I learned that in grad school. My trauma professor told me that silence is the most healing thing that you can do to someone, that they'll be confused about why you did it. Like, just, you don't have to fill space with words sometimes, just sitting. And I'm thankful, but you also have, like, I've seen your friend group change a lot since I've known you. And there's some people who remain, and there's some people who've fallen off. There are relationships that aren't really symbolic of the woman you are right now.
Yeah.
But you have so much history and so much love and so many shared memories with those people that it still continues. But I remember I told you when you were like 27, I said, man, you're going to turn 30. I said, everything going to change. Your friendships, your body, the way you think, everything's going to change. And 30 hit, y'all. And I mean, almost
it was like 2 months later.
It was like, she 30?
Right.
Let's do it. And everything just started just going crazy. But I've noticed that you're a lot more conscientious. That must be the word today. Conscientious.
You also say conscientious often.
I love that
That's
word.
your favorite word.
You know what? Conscientious kicked me out of a spelling bee. I got kicked out of spelling bee by two
I'll be
words.
honest.
Abbreviate and conscientious. I will. It's ABB.
Oh, you thought it was 1B?
Man.
Come on. I've never heard the word conscientious until you said it. I didn't believe it was a word. I thought you made it up.
To be conscientious.
It's a word, and it's a very important one.
But I try to be. You know what I'm saying? I just.
Yeah.
It's,
and I'm learning to be.
Yeah.
When I tell you I love who I am right now, I've never loved myself more than I love myself today.
That's an amazing thing to feel.
I never thought I would feel this way.
Do I feel that way? Do I love myself more today than I ever have? I need to think about that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I do.
I just spent a whole podcast talking about it, so that's why it's like.
Dang. Question for you in the comments. Do you love yourself more in this very moment that we're standing in than you have traditionally in the past?
I think that's just a great mental health check in.
It's
You
a
know
good
what I
it's a good
mean?
self check.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, when we think about mental health, we think about how we deal with how other people treat us and how we deal with other people's emotions. But like, who are you in a quiet room when there's nobody to talk to? What do you love? What do you wish you could change? I think for me, like at almost 32, like I kind of am who I am. Like
You think so?
not like I'm unable to change, but like I've been this person for a really long time, and I want to feel comfortable in who I am, but also comfortable in knowing like what being comfortable in order to say like what I'm working on, what I
Yeah.
love about myself, what I wish I could change. Like I don't want somebody else. For so long, I really depended on my friends to tell me about myself because I felt like I couldn't see myself the way that I truly was. I needed someone from the outside to look at me and to tell me what they saw. And through that, and I've done that. I spent a lot of like my late 20s, early 30s doing that because I really wanted to see what people saw when they saw me. And what I realized is like a lot of the things, most of the things that people said, I can understand, but there were some things that I didn't really understand. And I internalized that as if like that's just who I am. And I'm like, that's not always true. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I think it's helpful to know the way that you come across, but I think it's even more helpful to know like who are you? What kind of energy are you putting out? Are you just living life just to live life? Or are you intentional in the way that you show up for people? Are you intentional in the way that you show up for yourself? Are you intentional in your, professional and personal development?
Nah, that's real. It's man, I'm just thinking about the average Joe trying to unpack all that.
Yeah.
Because while you
This
doing
is my
all that
therapy.
work,
This is like what my therapist talked to me about. So
while you
you're gonna have to
doing all
ask
that
her.
work, you still are responsible for your everyday life, which
Yep.
is already taxing. So while you're listening to that, and Noemi always drops these really dope truth bombs, and it's you don't always know how much work she's done to get there. But so while you putting that on, just remember that that takes a lot of time and a lot of practice, and sometimes you make your biggest strides after you've made your biggest mistakes.
Can I speak on that really quick? Because I
Yeah.
thought about you and I thought about this. You posted, I don't know if it was one of your three things, your breakdowns, all the mental
I got
health
a lot
stuff.
going on
But
the
you said
internet.
something about like people talk about their wins and how hard things were, but you don't actually talk about like how you felt in the moment.
Yeah, people tell you that they conquered the mountain
Yep.
once they conquer the mountain,
It,
not when they're on their first 100 feet of the climb.
let me speak to this. This week has been a very tough week for me. Like a personal development, like tough week to the point where I've had multiple emotional breakdowns within the past couple of days. I felt the lowest of low that I've felt in a very, very long time. And it's something about like being at those lowest of low moments that in some ways makes a lot of like things clear. Like it became clear to me what I was spending my time and focusing my attention on and where it should have been. It became very clear to me that like just surface level, like my plate was too full. Like I was doing so many things for so many people, projects, work, whatever,
Yeah,
that
just
like,
spread way too thin.
yeah, it's just spread way thin to the point where like I was unrecognizable to myself. And like when I say like I feel like me again is like being in that moment and having all of those broken pieces. It's like you have all of these broken pieces of things and you have a cup, right? Clearly all of those things can't fit into the cup. So I'm like, okay, well, this I'm going to put in the cup. This I can't right now. This I'm gonna put in a cup. Or I'm gonna break this in half and I'm gonna put half of this in a cup. And it's like when, and not to say that everybody needs to have a mental breakdown. I'm not saying that we need to push ourselves to that point. But I don't want people who do feel in that place where they do feel low that things aren't going to get better. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes when you spill your cup, you're actually able to see everything that was there. And you're able to see how big or how little certain things were. Am I preaching? But that's how I felt. And I think when I woke up today and after I had the conversation with my friend, and why I say that I'm very happy is because I was able to see everything that was in my cup and I realized that it was ridiculous. And now I'm able slowly to prioritize the things that are really important to me. And like, I don't want to be spread thin again. But it took me having that mental breakdown to see how bad it really was.
Yeah, friends are really good for that,
Good
and
friends.
I do. Yeah,
You can't share that with everybody.
and what makes a good friend isn't written in stone, it's situational. Keep in mind, two people constantly changing. It's a moving target to hit the perfect pitch. You know what I'm saying? There's no perfect pitch. You just continuously try to have the communication to make sure y'all in the same vicinity of one another. But like, just like it's very important to have your own self concept and know who you are and whose you are, as Unique Jones Gibson says
But it's
all the
real.
time. But like, just to know that and own that, man. It's not always the easiest thing to do. And I know I'm always speaking of what's not easy, but I feel like it needs to be said. It only takes us 2 or 3 seconds to spit it. We can give you all the suggestions and all the viewpoints and all the lived experience that we can muster, sure. But when it comes to applying it and it looks like it's 2 pounds and we give it to you, you realize it's 200, it's harder to hold. So that's why I always speak to the fact that this isn't easy to do. You know, it's not a quick fix. Your personality changes all the time, man. Your identity changes
All the time.
all the time, all the time.
And it doesn't take much
No.
for it to change. It really, I think people also look at like, oh, I changed because I got married. I changed because I had a kid. You could change because something that didn't bother you before now bothers you. It could be as small as that.
It could be even within your marriage. The change isn't that you got married. The change is the fact that you feel committed and obligated to someone in a different way. The change is that you have someone who you have to keep dibs on now, who you have to update on what you're doing and what you're feeling, where you're going. That will change your personality over time because the way you deploy life is just different now. I hate oversimplification. Acting like
Yeah.
a 35-step process is a
know.
U-turn. Like, what you?
I know.
Nah, man.
It's complicated. Everything about it is complicated, and what I would hate for people to do is to take this as like an actual blueprint. This shouldn't be a blueprint. This should be something to help you establish your own blueprint, your own foundation. You can totally listen to our conversation and be like, you know what, I'm gonna take this nugget, but this doesn't really apply to me. That's okay. That is totally okay. Like,
that's actually preferred.
yeah, like when people say do the work, that's literally what it means. You have to do the work to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. And it's a trial, like life is trial and error. Something that worked for you yesterday may not work for you today, and that is totally okay.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's like Shar always says, like, what is it? Like, this is not before. This is not before. This is not 5 minutes ago. This is not 10 minutes ago. Something that you agreed with yesterday doesn't necessarily have to be something that you need to take into account today. It's so different. Everything is so different.
It's so interesting you say that. Something you agreed to yesterday doesn't have to be something you take into account today. And I agree. Like, you don't have to stay steadfast to something because you committed to it, even though your mind and your ideas have changed. But like with friends, that brings up the whole point of expectations. I am a very low maintenance friend. I don't need you to call me all the time. I don't need you to text me all the time. I know you love me even if you don't show up to my birthday party.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I think that's where we connect. But how does that work for you when you have a high maintenance friend?
It doesn't. That's why I have a small group of really close friends.
Or they just know and they expect, like, you're not gonna call me today, but I know he loves me.
I make my closest friends know, man. I got your birthday on the calendar, homie. Like, listen, my best friend in the world is a very what word can I use and not get in trouble. She's a very meticulous young woman, and she's also a clinical psychologist and a brilliant mind, and we've been best friends since we were in the 9th grade. So we've had our fallings out about
Of
that,
course,
but
yeah.
she knows like her birthday. I'm calling. I make it a priority because the trial and error. We
Yeah.
fought over it. We've had disagreements. We've had falling outs, and now we have a mutual understanding of what that means to her. And you know, one thing I had to learn as a friend is about like variance of value.
Yes.
The stuff that I find value in, my friends may not, and it makes it an unequal role when it comes to expectations.
Yes.
If your expectation of me was to do something very specific, but I don't value that thing, and if we didn't have a conversation about it, it's just like an unspoken assumption that this is what I'm going to do or the way I'm going to react, then now we're going to have a problem.
This applies to relationships too.
Because
I know
a
y'all can
relationship
relate.
is a relationship is a relationship is a relationship.
Exactly. Yeah, one thing that I really do admire about, you know, your friendships and my friendships in general is that like they meet you where you are, but they still push you where you need to be pushed. Like, okay, yeah,
Facts.
Kier's not always, or me, because I'm just like that. I am just like that. I'm not gonna remember everything, but once you tell me, and I'm like, oh damn, like I feel horrible. How can I make it up to you? It's not gonna be like, well, that wasn't important to me, and blah blah blah. But it's like giving
Oh,
us
the
the grace,
passive aggr-
giving us the grace to like make up for it because that there's love there. I've learned in my adult life that like I appreciate that so much. Like I know some of my friends be like, damn, Noemie, get your shit together. I'm like, I'm sorry guys, I'm trying, but I'm a cancel everything. I'm gonna make it up to you. I'm gonna do the thing that you know I hate to do, but I'm gonna do it because I love you and I'm gonna show up for you in that way. And it's just like I so appreciate that grace. And I'm learning like we always say, like relationships and friendships are the same. Like that's key. That is key. Like you're gonna up, you're gonna mess up, they're gonna up, they're gonna mess up. But like being able to give your friend or your spouse or the person that you're in a relationship that grace to fix it, and then they show up and fix it. Like how amazing is that?
Yeah, that's giving people grace.
That's one of my words.
Grace is your
Yeah.
conscientious.
Yeah. Grace. Like giving grace,
Yeah,
giving yourself grace.
I have a hard time
You do.
giving myself grace. I'll give my friends more grace than I give myself.
Why though?
It's I don't know.
I feel like you're very hard on yourself.
I feel like I have to be. I'm not a super driven, motivated. Oh man, get up and hustle hard. Like nah, it's that I don't have that mindset. If I don't push myself, nobody else will. And I've also been on my own with no parent, no
Yeah.
nothing. My entire almost 18 years now,
Yeah.
and I'm only 35. So like almost my entire adult life.
I'm very interested to see what life for you is going to look like in the next 10 years when you've had companionship and family longer than you haven't.
I know.
Like I just
It's a lot of interesting thoughts in my head.
I see a lot of shifts. And when I say I feel like you're hard on yourself, I feel like you're too hard on yourself. Because I feel like you can kick yourself in the ass for fucking up, but give yourself the grace to fix it if there's an opportunity to fix it. And I think sometimes, and I don't think you're still like this. It was more so before. It's just like you would just feel so bad and just be down and out about it. It's like, nah, like that energy that you're spending on like hating yourself for doing something, like you really have the opportunity to fix it. If it's with like a friend, a tip with a friendship, you know, somebody that really cares about you, or with me or with family or whatever. And I just feel like when those tiffs and when those conflicts are with people that genuinely love you, like trying to do better sometimes is enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, perhaps you're right. I'm too close to it, so
Yeah.
I can't see it. But I do realize that I'm really hard on myself. And I'm not really hard on my friends at all. I don't feel like that needs to be a thing.
I'm the same.
Yeah,
I'm
like
not that hard on my friends either.
like but there's some people who are.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
answer your question, what do you do if you don't have if you're a low maintenance friend and you have high maintenance friends, or vice versa, is evaluate how you utilize your friendship. Like your different friends serve different purposes. I have a friend that all we do is get together and complain about our spouses and our kids. That is the extent of our friendship, and it's amazing. I'm not going to go, yeah. Yeah, it's not the extent of our friendship. That's not all we do. We
That
know each
sounded
other.
bad.
But like when we get together, like that's our bag. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that's how we bond, and that's how we kind of process our
That's
stuff.
real. Mm-hmm.
And it's good to have a friend like that, but I ain't about to come to him when it's like, man, I'm feeling really self-conscious right now. That's
Yeah.
not my friend for that thing. Like you can't I'm not gonna say you can't, but I don't think it's best practice
To like blah for everybody.
yeah, to just utilize your friends for everything. Like, what are your friends' strengths? What are their interests? How are
Yes.
y'all connected? What do y'all genuinely enjoy doing together? The thing that you depend on them for, is that something that they really can be dependent on for? And if not, are you punishing them for their inability to be dependent on for that thing? So it's not only expectation, but it's checking your own expectations.
Ken needs to write a book on friendship.
Yo, if anybody, if you were my friend and you ever call me like you didn't make it to my birthday party,
Never talking to you
don't
again.
ever call me again in your life as an adult telling me I ain't make it to your birthday party. That's important to you, not to me. Happy birthday, but I don't have to start my day and welcome you. You have one every year. like. Like, I don't have to acknowledge you that way. It would be amazing if I did, but to treat me like I have to that's going to make my disassociative, antisocial wall kick up. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't agree. And if you give me too much pushback, then we'll drift unless we have a conversation.
Can I land this plane with a story?
Let's do it.
Because you got to pick up Booby soon. I love that you said that, because I have two situations. A couple years ago, when I first found out I was pregnant, I remember I have a thing.
Pregnancy and friendships.
My thing was, whenever I get really stressed and overwhelmed, I run and I close myself up. I don't talk to anybody. You won't see me on social media. I don't want to call anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just need time by myself. And when I was younger, especially in my 20s, like that was a problem for some friends. And I remember it was right after we found out we were pregnant. We were still scared, just a lot of emotions. And one of my friends who I talk to often called me, and she's like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, why? She's like, you're doing that thing where you don't talk to anybody, you know what I mean, where I don't hear from you, so I know something's going on. Are you okay? And I remember crying, and I'm like, wow, like that very thing that I do to literally preserve, like self-preservation, like you saw that and didn't make it about you. And you called and asked me about me.
That's really important.
And that was so touching. And then that happened again recently. I had posted something about motherhood and how it could be super lonely. And like one of my friends called me, it's like, hey girl, I just saw your post, wanted to see if you were okay. And it's like, wow, like for the longest time, the reason why I would run away is because I didn't feel like I could go to people when I was, having those little bouts of depression, because I also didn't want people to think that it was worse than it actually was.
Because the overpouring of support sometimes is a bit
too much. Yeah, and it's like I don't need all of that. You know what I mean? I just need that acknowledgement, like, hey, you okay? Do you need to talk? Do you not need to talk? Just want to let you know that I'm thinking about you, and that's enough for me. That's more than enough for me. And it's like, it's such an amazing moment to see when those friendships turn into those things, because like I do feel guilty because I'm that low maintenance, friend. It's like, you really don't have to do that much for me. And actually, please don't. Like, don't do a lot for me, because now I'm uncomfortable, because that's not.
It's an overpour.
It's just too much.
Yeah.
It's never anything that I would ever do for myself. And I feel like that's something you would do for you. But you don't got to do it for me.
It's the extremes.
Yeah.
Like, people have a tendency to be on one side of the extreme or another, and I liken it to a coffee cup. Like, if I have a coffee cup and there's nothing in it, then it's not really serving me a purpose. But if you start pouring coffee and I'm like, oh, okay, perfect, it's full, but then you keep pouring and it overflows, now it's still not of much worth to me, because there's coffee everywhere. It's a mess. I can't touch it with my hands. It's not a great look. So those extremes, I think people think that nothing is a worse extreme than too much, which there may be a good argument that it is. But what I'm saying is
it's still recording.
What I'm saying is they're both an issue. They both can be give you some problems in your relationship. Your friendship rather. I actually made a post on Instagram this week talking about not feeling like a crappy friend for keeping in contact with people or not keeping in contact with people. Yeah. Oh. I'll post it right here.
Yeah. But
you can go ahead and land this.
Just to kind of like land it, to reiterate what you just said, like, sometimes people think like too much is not as bad as too little. Do a temperature check on your friends, because that might not be true for everybody. You know, some people would rather you do too much
I need
than not
all
enough.
that.
Please don't ever do too much for me. Like I am not the person that'll ever think because I didn't hear from a friend that it's a problem.
I just think you're busy.
But if I hear from you too much, I feel like you're not respecting my space and my time.
Get off
you
my
know
job.
What I mean? That's not just you ad-libbing. That's not true.
Get off my
But I would just say,
business.
like, do a temperature check with your friend and make it a mutual. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Temperature check, because just as life changes, we're changing. I'm not the same person I was a month ago. You know what I mean? Like what I needed from you a month ago may not be what I need from you now. But do those temperature checks, have those conversations, and then give each other grace to figure out what you want it to look like now. Relationship wise too, not just friendships.
As always, we appreciate y'all coming here and sharing some time with us. If you have not subscribed yet, make sure that you hit that button.
Even though we gave you some time to
gave
do
you
it before.
time.
And if you're listening on the podcast, subscribe or follow the podcast.
We gave you time.
That sounded really good.
I try. Also, make sure that you hit the notification button so that you can know of all of our posts as soon as they post. If you don't follow us on Instagram, make sure that you do. Our handles are below. Make sure that you follow Noemie's new podcast, Happy Mother's Day. We'll put a link below. Dope podcast. Dope. I'm sure y'all will really, really enjoy it. They peel the layers. Bike.
And it's not just motherhood. We just happen to be mothers. But we talk about some real shit.
Bitch, I'm a mother.
I want to add that somewhere that's going to be the intro. All right, I'm done.
That's
y'all.
forever funny. All right, y'all. We're going to catch y'all on the next sit down talk. Y'all be breezy.